Boom. Sergito, what's up, my man?
Not much. How are you guys doing?
Great. I mean, we're feeling very smart for bringing you on today after the weekend that was just had out there in NFT land.
It was very exciting. I was trying to touch grass and it was just impossible. Thank you for having me, by the way. I'm obviously a huge fan of Seed Club and what you guys have built over the years, and obviously of you both individually, personally. So really happy to be here today.
Thanks,
Yeah,
bro.
man, we're excited to get into some more of the details about Meebits. I think it was something that came across the timeline at a very low point for NFTs, so it's kind of easy to dismiss or look the other way. And we're in a different world now. So you're the CEO of Meeb Co, which is the acquirer of Meebits IP about 6 months ago, and ultimately trying to go build a large consumer brand around it. So I'm curious if you could just tell us how the acquisition happened. Like, we know nothing about it. Was Yuga shopping it? Did you approach them? How did kind of One Confirmation get involved? Like, what's the background here?
Sure. So, I think it's no secret Yuga made a big strategic decision last year when they brought Garga back as CEO to really focus on their core brand, core properties, that being the Bored Ape Yacht Club, other side, and then supporting Ape Chain and Ape Coin DAO. And so with that said, obviously they had acquired a few other IPs through the years, Punks, Meebits, Proof, Moonbirds, and so on. And they were looking for good homes for them. So yeah, it was like middle of December of last year. I was chilling in Miami post Basel, and I got a call from Garga, and I thought he just wanted to like chat Meebit strategy, because that's the conversations we would have once a quarter. And then he just kind of like dropped that on me, like, hey, do you want to buy the Meebits? I was like, what? Is it some sort of like, April Fools? Because in Mexico, like our version of April Fools is December 28th. And I'm like, what is this? But it wasn't April Fools. And so no, it was a real offer. Obviously, they were looking for a team that would take them on, that really loved them, appreciated their provenance, their legacy, and were committed to building out and stewarding the IP the right way. So what happened was I asked them for just 24 hours to think about it. I had just kind of started to wrap up my previous startup experience with Popset, which was a lot of fun building, but it was my first startup ever, and like learned a lot about the challenges that come with not having an income for a year and so on. So I was like, all right, if I'm going to do this, I want to make sure that I can set the company up the right way so that we can be sustainable, because I think the long-term goal is to really just bring Meebits up to where they belong in their legacy and everything that has to do with them. And so I called One Confirmation. They had been really good as far as just, they were not investors in Popset, but they took a liking to what we're trying to build, the direction we're trying to take the space in. And I just kind of told them, like, hey, just offer the Meebits. And they were in. They're like, okay, we're in. How many people do you want to raise from? I'm like, the least amount of possible, given the fact that obviously in NFTs, everything leaks. And it's just a really bad way of starting a takeover or a project when you see things running like, oh, the cabal found out about it. So it's just them. And pretty much we had a handshake deal with Yuga it was actually Christmas Day. We talked about the deal, and then 2 months of lawyering. Shout out to lawyers. I mean, you guys have an incredible business where you just charge by the hour for responding to emails, that ChatGPT. No, we have an incredible legal team. The team at Day One was incredible. It was just more that, you have to go through the motions, and it took 2 months, and we announced on Valentine's Day with that tweet, just, PR and everything. It's just been such a fun ride since.
So what was it about Meebits that gave you confidence that there was a strong foundation for a big consumer brand there?
Yeah, I've been a fan of Meebits since month 2 when they launched. Not really month 1. It took me a while to really understand them and look closer in that collection. For me, just the provenance of Larva Lab, Matt and John, having been at the forefront of different waves of tech, going back to their like Web 2 days with Android and Google and the stuff they built there, and then coming to NFTs, pretty much creating the asset class almost by accident with Punks, innovating and inspiring the ERC 721, and then doing it again with tokenized generative art with autoglyphs. I don't think they get enough credit. Obviously, Art Blocks and the other teams that built on top of that idea, obviously, were the ones who really propagated it. But Matt and John were the pioneers when it comes to it. And so with Meebits, once again, I think, very, very frontier, pushing space forward, thinking, okay, we have 2D identities for this like 2D version of the metaverse, which is the Twitters, the LinkedIns of the world. What's going to happen when all that becomes 3D? And they created Meebits. I think they don't get enough credit for how much creativity they put in the collection. It's a lot of math and code that went behind it. There's a couple of generative algorithms involved in it. And so it's hard to explain sometimes, especially because they look just like, Minecraft characters. People just discount them. But having had studied the collection at depth and just been in the community for those years, I think just that's the foundation that you want to build a business on. And that's why I was really excited when that conversation with Yuga Labs happened.
You just listed a whole bunch of things that are not, I guess, indicative of a broad consumer brand. Like, do people even know about the stuff? Do the people even care about do they know about the Larva Labs precedent? Do they care about the on-chain stuff? It feels like there's still this big disconnect between like the things that maybe, like, I love it. We were talking about squiggles earlier. Like, that was a big click for me, that this was like very native to Ethereum art. But I try to go tell my golfing buddies about that, and they're like, I don't give a fuck. Like, what are you talking about here? So are you sort of seeing like crypto culture continue to grow and being the basis for this broad consumer brand, or is there different ways you're trying to have sort of this IP show up in the world to be more broadly applicable?
It's we're taking an approach that takes a couple of different paths. Obviously, we have the opportunity of being a startup to iterate across different avenues. There's a few companies in the space that have done a great job at trailblazing and showing, different playbooks that work out, and then others that haven't done so, and giving us the opportunity to learn from maybe like their mistakes or the false starts to really see, okay, which direction do we want to take. So for us, Meebits are art first and foremost, and I think that sets an incredible kind of like square one, because if you look at just traditional contemporary art, right? Like, people will go and buy a Basquiat t-shirt, and that is a shirt that has his crown printed on, right? And why is that? Is because they're, his paintings and like his place in culture has been cemented through what's happened with the evolution of his art. I see the same thing for Larva Labs, right? They are, punks and glyphs already sit at collections of really important museums, the Whitney, the ICA. They just had that big show in Toledo that is opening up, and I expect that to continue to happen. So as that crypto culture continues to expand outside of a little bubble of crypto Twitter, I do expect folks to be like, okay, so tell me more about this artist and the stuff that they've created. Oh, and by the way, look at these little things, these Meebits. They are digital identities. They are little characters that were inspired by New Yorkers, created by this amazing artist. So instead of just kind of like buying a print of a punk, which is cool, and I have prints of my punks and so on, or putting, plotting your glyph and putting it up the wall, now you can really almost have that digital sculpture that is a Meebit become your digital twin, your digital identity. And that's kind of like the first direction that we're taking. Now, how do we expand from that? There's only 20,000 Meebits, which today, sounds like a lot. It's collections that are like 8,000 or 7,000 that are really, move, because it's a lot easier to move a floor price when you have less, supply. But I think as we go through time, as more people start coming into crypto art and just kind of like this NFT art, let's call it, even though it pisses off people when you say NFT art, they'll start to realize that they can bond with the IP in ways that don't require them to really have to own the token, and hopefully build in that direction to where they want to eventually buy the token, but they don't really need to buy the Meebit. They can just participate in stuff that we're doing, collect some of like the merch that we're doing. Like, this is a hat that we did with merch, Colby McGravi's company. It has a wearable wallet, so this connects you to experiences that they're putting out, museums and stuff around New York. So I can be part of the Meebits community just by having the merch without really having to, pony up to $2,000 or, hopefully down the line, the $100,000 to become a Meebit. So that's then like the second element. How do we build stuff today so that once Meebits get big enough, we don't leave people outside just because they don't have the means to pony up for a full NFT?
Got it. We, I guess, now have some NFT playbooks that are working with, Pudgies. We had Wobbs from Sappy Seals on last week, and they're really running out this gaming opportunity, which seems to be working well. And, probably a few others. So I'm curious how important it is from your perspective to be like really innovating at kind of like the product experience level, or like versus just kind of doing the obvious things that, now that you have this IP that you think is, really important, you're kind of viewing it from this art perspective versus doing kind of the obvious things to just grow like awareness and connection.
Yeah, I think they go hand in hand, right? Like, you definitely need awareness, and Luca and the Pudgies have done so well at like the GIF strategy, the toy strategy obviously brings awareness. in this space, though, there's nothing that brings more awareness than number go up. I think that's, at the end of the day, it's something that's on top of mind of everybody, even though we say it or not. So yeah, the playbooks I've worked that one. I really like the Bored Apes playbook of identity, right? I remember when Apes just minted, people really came in and they became their ape, and they've done a really good job at fostering that ability of their community to really take their own ape and do something with it, whether that's just silly animations or really building brands that there's literally restaurants branded around Bored Apes in Asia and parts of the world. So combining those things and always putting the art kind of underlying that, because I do think that over the long term, the intrinsic value of owning a Meebit token, an NFT, is going to be that ability to own that piece of work that Matt and John created in 2021, and that really represents everything that they've learned from punks and glyphs and their own development as artists. And I think it's an unbeatable proposition if you're looking at it from, I want to own a piece of culture, I want to own a piece of this moment in time, and also I want to own that from one of the top studios or artists in that world, and hopefully in the world one day, right? They are I believe they're the living artists with the highest secondary market trading. And so that, again, to the number go up thing, yeah, it might not be the floor price going up, but as they continue to expand into museums and expand their mind share, people say, okay, well, what else did they produce? I can't afford $1 million punk. I can't afford a $5 million glyph. Oh, there's a $40,000 Meebit. Okay, let me go in and acquire that, collect that, and display it. And not only that, but let me do a lot of fun things that Meebco has then created for Meebit holders, where I can play video games and be my Meebit as a character, something that we already have on with Player Zero. Oh, I can buy merch that is not just the NFT printed on a shirt, but it's an actual hat that was designed digitally by Larva Labs, right? It's like Basquiat designed the shirt instead of just printing the logo. Same thing with, we have 97 or so traits in the Meebits collection that look really good in real life because they're inspired by New Yorkers and streetwear, that we plan those eventually through time to bring it to the real world so that folks can not only use their Meebit as their identity, but also become, one with their Meebit in the real world or with a Meebit that they like.
So it's obviously a big weekend for NFTs. You've been a big NFT guy through the ups and the downs. I'm just wondering what your take on the current market sentiment is.
I think honestly, it's amazing that we're finally getting that level of excitement again that we saw in kind of call it same thing, summer of 21, when we started getting those green shoots, the punk sweeps going through. I think it just NFTs are just like tech stocks in the 99, right? A lot of them went up a lot for no reason other than momentum and convexity and just human nature, right? It's human behavior on display. And then a lot of them came back to earth. But then if you look today, the largest companies in the world are from that group of stocks that went up massively and then collapsed. So that's what you're seeing today. You're seeing, obviously a rising tide lifts all boats, but you're definitely seeing some of the outperformance from those NFT projects and companies that done things really, really well over the last 4 years. They've catered to their communities, they've expanded their mind share, they're creating funnels, not just into NFTs themselves, but into the crypto ecosystem, either through physical activation, toys, or just launching their own token, which allows folks that can't afford the $50,000 penguin, the $35,000 ape, to participate on a smaller increments, such as an ape coin or a penguin token.
All right, before we let you go, the question I have to ask you is, are you a Labubu guy?
I'm not a Labubu guy. I am a Meebit guy.
There we go.
But
when Meebit plushies?
Very, very soon. Actually, this is the first time we're kind of talking about it publicly, but we'll be at the Tokyo Gift Show in September, showing our first plushie lifestyle product. We see our toys more as lifestyle products rather than collectibles, which I think it's a bit of a difference between us and some of the other approaches. For us, it's more like, you never hear of somebody saying, I'm a Hello Kitty collector. They're just a Hello Kitty fan. So we want to build that type of fanhood, similar to kind of sports teams. You don't say, yeah, I'm a Yankee collector, I'm a Yankees fan.
I would love to be a Yankee collector, to be honest, but
for the most part, the majority
I
of
get it. Yeah, I get it. All right, Sergio, appreciate it, man. It was really great to get the lowdown and catch up, and wish you great success over the next couple of months. Feels like it's go time, baby.
Thank you. I appreciate you guys having me here.
All right, brother.
See you, buddy.
Cheers.